and John's just sharing his tea. So welcome everyone to the Coaching to Flourish podcast. And I'm your host, Raj Anderson, executive life coach and coach assessor. And I'm here with John Andrew Williams, founder of Coach Training EDU. How are you, John?
I'm good. We just went through a pretty intense team meeting where we looked at the whole logistics, from even picking a start class date to how do we onboard people, like from front to finish, all of the processes. It's wildly more complex than I even thought. I mean, I knew it was complex, but so we spent an hour and 50 minutes doing that. So I'm coming right from that. So my brain is very full of logistics systems. I'm psyched. I feel like we are going to be able to streamline some things, but there's no way around it. It's a whole operation, a logistical operation to do what we do. So that's my day so far.
What would be great to share with the audience today about what's happening at Coach Training EDU?
I think that I have a lot of compassion for like businesses and organizations that are trying to do something, or doing anything really. Like how many of the pieces that need to be put in place in order for even small things to happen. I think any coach who's starting your own organization or business, there's a balance point between, okay, I'm doing this myself. And I remember back when I hired my very first person to help. It was a big deal because it's a big risk, because now you're paying someone to help you run your schedule, run different things. And at first it was 10 hours a week, then it was 20, and then it was the first full time. So I feel like there's Coach Training EDU has been built organically. It's been built bootstrapped from the very beginning. And getting to this process here, I feel like it happens in stages, right? And what got you here won't get you there, kind of thing. So for those new coaches who are starting out, building your business and practice, I would enjoy that first couple, this first year or maybe 2 years where it's just you and maybe one other person. Just savor that, because once you start getting into 3, 4, more people, I feel like I'm spending a lot of time now working on building the business and building the organization than I am doing the actual coaching and training and the work of research. But I'm able to keep my research self alive, which is lovely. But my training self, it needs to be fed. It's not. I need to get back to it. I mean, I yearn for it. So I don't know. Whatever. I'm just rambling at this point, but I feel like that's, yeah. Message to coaches: savor that time, because it is lovely, and I often look back with great fondness of that time period.
And it might be that you want to stay in that place. I mean, growth looks different for different people, doesn't it?
I dream about it sometimes. What if we just stayed there? It was a conscious choice. It was a choice of there are some things that need to be changed. There are elements of structural change that needs to happen if we are really going to accomplish this goal, accomplish this change, accomplish what we're envisioning. Then we need to have the resources of an organization in order to do that. So organization building is what I had to learn. And from the standpoint of, is it useful for me to learn this and know this? Absolutely. So a lot of it is giving yourself grace of realizing, okay, if you're doing something that you've never done before, mistakes are going to be made. So embrace them. Go for those mistakes. It doesn't make sense to try to avoid them completely, otherwise you won't do anything. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
How would a coach know whether their business should be expanded to that level, or whether they should kind of stay where they're at?
I don't know. I don't know if I might not even be doing it right. You know what I mean? That's you know what I mean? I just don't know. I think that sometimes there's elements of let me try something out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something different. One thing I've heard, and I believe this is hire when it hurts. Hire when it's okay, this is becoming such a big problem. I need to actually get someone here to help That's helpful too. But then know, like, it initially takes more work when you hire someone. You have to. It's not like they instantly help. You have to actually put more work into getting them onboarded and doing all those things. It's not a balm that instantly heals. It's more like 2 to 3 weeks at best. Then you start breaking even again on your energy, and then hopefully a month you start getting that energy back. So I have whole yeah. I feel like it's been a whole education in and of itself, business building for sure.
Yeah. Or for me as well, I mean, outsource the things you don't enjoy, like my taxes, for a start. I have an accountant, I outsource those things. We have a great relationship, even in the home. For me, I really think about, where do I want to put my energy? What are the things that are important? How do I want to harness my time? So, cleaners that come in, or somebody that comes to do the garden, I don't enjoy those things unless I'm actually planting something and it's not hours and hours of the messy things. But for me, it's the same in business as well. There are, as you're saying, there's a lot of operational things that sometimes you have to initially put the work in. But I always ask myself, what are these pieces that I can outsource? All the things I don't do that well, then they're not my forte. And what will help me get back to the coaching?
Right.
This is why I love these conversations with you. It keeps it current, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We've been playing with this idea of, what if we crafted playbooks for our whole household? Like, you know what I mean? Like the idea of, can we create a system and procedure? So the one I've been creating recently has been watering plants. Like, can I outsource watering plants? I love them, but I mean, literally, it takes me, if I were to do this, it would take me 2 hours at least a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, why? But I love them. Anyway.
Or you have these fake plants that I have.
What? I did not hear that. I know what I'm getting you for your birthday next.
Yeah. I mean, I do have one out there that is still alive, John.
10
I haven't killed them all.
I'm gonna give you 10 plants.
Okay, so we're talking about kind of expansion and vision and growth. And we had a question come in from somebody who said, I saw the Let's Life Coach video with Oprah. What are the steps, or are there steps that I can take to discover my own truest, highest expression?
Yeah, I love that question. I've been thinking about it too. And it hit me last week as I was really deeply thinking about this. And the idea that I've been playing with is that it's not a question that has a finite answer, but the whole point is to ask the question again and again. Like, in this moment, what is the truest, highest expression of self? And I think the answer changes. But it's like coaching. It's not that coaching, when you are coached, you say something out loud and you have an insight, and that insight is so powerful that finding it somehow changes the rest of your life forever. It can have an impact forever, sure. But it's more the practice of asking yourself these inquisitive, curious, powerful questions again and again, in different circumstances, in different places, at different times. And so that to me is amazing. So I don't think that there is a whole list of steps, as opposed to there's one consistent step. And that consistent step is to ask yourself that question as an inquiry. Rinse and repeat.
How does somebody make that a regular practice of being curious? I mean, it's who you are, John, right? It's part of your life. What if it's not part of someone's life? How can they make it a regular practice?
Yeah, I mean, I had a really funky day Sunday where I just felt like not good. And Moise was like, "You're doing your thing again. I'm just going to let you have your day of funk, and feel good. She's like, give yourself a day or two. Like, she's like, she's learned like not to like try to push me out of it. Just like, you got to feel the feels of the pressure of everything, right? Feel it. In that sense, I think there's a way to be gentle with yourself too. Like what we talked about last week, like self-love, self-care, those kinds of things, like where there's just an awareness, like, yeah, if you're doing something hard, something you've never done before, you're going to, if you're doing something worth doing, like in the sense of it's challenging, there's opportunity for failure. And even the idea of flow, like in order for us to experience flow, there has to be an opportunity for failure. That's amazing. That's like, that is so, it's so much, you can give yourself so much grace. So in that funky day, did I think to myself, what's my truest high expression? It's so hard. It's so hard. But that's the deal, is you have to create structures around it. You have to create ways to remind yourself to do that. So is it sticky notes? Is it vision recordings? Is it a vision board? Is it a reminder on your phone that pops up every hour? Is it designing relationship with people around you, that the people around you are also doing it too? So that, or like people around you say, hey, what's your truest, highest expression right now? It's creating these structures and systems. And I think this is the real work. Like this is work of, we talk a lot about, and if you're trying to initiate flow, having like a routine, like a morning routine or a ritual to go through, or a series of steps or sequences that you do every single time. These are really valuable tools.
Structures and systems. So
I'm curious, what do you do, Raj? Because I mean, we've talked about our own different tools.
Yeah. For me, what really helped for it to stick was the structures and systems. So I have a reminder in the morning that pops up around about 7:30, but that's the first time I touch my phone as well, because phones are not allowed in the bedroom. They are plugged in the laundry room. So that's not the first thing we kind of pick up or see. So there is a question that I'll see when I pick up the phone, and it changes at different times. I know different season there is a different question, or might be an affirmation. At the moment for me is I am strong and healed, because health is really important for me this year. So it's that reminder. Before I get out of bed, I will meditate. So I like to meditate for about 10 minutes. I do some breathing. I'm doing a new one at the minute because I'm into Ayurveda. So I'm doing empty bowl meditation, which is cool. Just releasing and letting go. Cool. Yeah, any overthinking or, starting to think about, what's going to happen this day helps me to sit in that space. So meditation, I like to think about what is my intention for the day. I like to journal actually, but at the end of the day. I like to journal at night. So I've got journals everywhere, like hundreds of journals. I carry a journal in my bag, journaling, being curious about myself. I was talking to somebody last week and I was saying about it's becoming a student of yourself, isn't it? And then you become an expert of yourself. Mm-hmm. What do you think, John?
Little known fact about me. I don't know if we talked about this yet, but the idea, when I was 13, I attended some lecture, and in there, the person who was speaking said, hey, you should write, one thing is really useful is to keep a journal. So I did from the age of 13 to around the age of 20, for 7 years. I kept a journal. I wrote in that journal every day for at least 30 minutes.
Wow.
Like every day. I mean, I was skip a day, maybe. So I had like 12, those spiral bound notebooks that have like 200 sheets in them, 250 sheets, stuff like that. I had 12 of them. So then when I was 27, so I stopped. So met Amois when we were 19, and I stopped because I realized I transferred all of the communication with the journals to Amois. And it didn't feel the need to write in them as much. And I still kept one, but it was like maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, like whatever. But then our first child's being born. We're 27, and I'm looking at these things, thinking, you know what? I needed to be released. So I recycled them all. I
Wow.
recycled 12. I've read like 12,000 pages of journals. Like just poof. Like we told that might have been poof gone. I
Wow.
remember the moment when the recycling guy came. The recycling truck came by, and I was watching it. I remember very clearly watching this thing get, these journals get taken, and it was like a bucket of freedom, with like a little drop of regret.
Mm.
And I think it needed to be released. I needed to write them in the moment and to put them down and to like go there. But then I think I also needed the freedom to be and to allow my past not to be tied to an object. And I was telling my daughter, who's now 15, this, and she now keeps journals too. She's like, Dad, I can't believe you did this. I'm like, me neither. I can't believe you either. Yeah, Raj.
Why was it
And
important to release it, John?
she was being, it's like my daughter was being born, like, and then I was like, I don't even want to have to keep track of them, you know.
Mm.
I don't want to, in the back of my mind, think, okay, they're here or there, or, because it was pretty, we're talking 15 to 20, 13 to 20 every day documentation of activities. It's not anything terrible or bad. It just was, I think it became a thing of, it was a structure in the moment for me to process what was going on. And there's this thing now too, I guess they call them burn books or burn journals. Have you heard of this?
No,
Kelowna
I've
was saying,
not.
yes, like in the car, she's saying that there's this thing where you can buy a journal and it has matches with it, and then you're supposed to write everything in it and then burn it,
Mm.
kind of thing.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, all of that to say, like, do I regret, letting them go? Probably. Like, I wish I'd been able to have the time to curate and pick out different things of
Mm.
it and, like, truly curate it and, like, make, like, this huge, like, I could make a book of that, like, a big, crazy document. But it's, again, like, going through all that, I don't know. It's a lot of work. I have other work to do.
Thank you for sharing that, John.
Yeah.
I don't have that many journals backdated or anything. I do. I release them on a every couple of years. So
Really? You recycle them as well?
yeah, yeah,
No
yeah,
kidding. I'm
yeah.
impressed. I don't know if I've met many people who recycle their journals.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did it one time. I went back and read some things, and I didn't even recognize myself. And then there were
Wow.
some things that were really painful that I actually didn't really want to revisit. I'm like, that's not who I am now.
Right,
So
right,
I didn't want to sit in sadness.
right. Yeah, that's the idea. You have to like that. That's where I was at. I was like, no, I gotta let this go.
Absolutely. So, John, another question for you.
Yeah.
How do I find the value in who I am without tying my worth to my job and what I do?
Mm. Oh, that's another idea we've been playing with. I think it's the idea of worth. I mean, it seems like it's at the bottom of almost every coaching session. I don't know about you, Raj. Like, do you feel?
Yeah.
I mean, am I worthy? Seems to be a universal question. I don't know. I feel like we as a family have been playing with this idea that like when someone does something like incorrect or not, not thoughtful, like, to call them out in real time, like your worth is not attached to this. Um, we've been doing that for maybe, it's been a while now. We've been playing with that idea. It's interesting when you catch yourself. I'm like, I'm finding like when I catch myself in that too, like, oh, I miss putting out miss putting out the recycling,
Mm.
this morning. Like, oh, my worth is not tied to that. Again, I feel like these things are a lot like like the affirmations. I feel like they're something that needs to be repeated over and over again. Like an example that sticks out in my mind, and I've shared this many times, I think, is there was something going on where I was feeling like something business wise. I forget exactly what it was, but I remember I was going out in the backyard and I wanted to make a new garden bed. And I mean, I grew up in Southwest Pennsylvania. Like I worked on farms, like in the summertime, like you know, digging ditches in Pennsylvania is not very fun. You hit rocks all the time and whatever. So here I am in Oregon doing the same thing. And I remember there with a shovel. And every time I stuck the shovel in the earth and would turn it over, I found myself having to repeat again, like the idea, like, you can do this, or, you got this, or, stay in gratitude, or I forget whatever the mantra was, but it was almost like my mind and whole being wanted to go back into that hard place. And I had to say it again and again and again. And it was so therapeutic to have like the action of just turning over the earth. Like say it again. Oh, turning over the earth. Oh, that's coming as like this wild ping pong match. And I feel like that's sometimes what we have to do in order to allow our subconscious or the lizard mind or limbic brain or whatever you want to call it, like to allow that part of our brain that's always operating, always judging ourselves harshly almost all the time, like to love that part of us because it keeps us safe. It's like it's a necessary part of what we're doing. It needs to be treated with love too. And the only way I know how to treat it with love is just by like just giving it a hug again and again, saying it's okay. Like, but that image of, creating a new garden bed really sticks with me.
Yeah.
I'm curious for yourself, Raj, like what structures are, I'm kind of curious your response to that question too.
I think when you talked about being, that really helped. And an affirmation I actually created for myself with my coach a while back was, I deserve to be loved for who I am, not just for what I do. So have that on a sticky note as a reminder, and some of this is tied up between, kind of values and how I was brought up and expectations. And I was listening to a video recently where someone was talking about identity and how much of our identity can be tied up in almost being a workaholic or being exhausted, and if I'm not overly exhausted, does that mean that I haven't worked hard enough? Or, am I being lazy? So those are lots of things I've had to work through. And what I love to do on the program, so I run a lot of women in leadership programs, and we look at who am I as a leader? Who do I need to be versus what do I need to do? And a while back, I started to create a being list versus a doing list. And that's helped me immensely, because when I look at the being list and, being empathetic, being calm, being courageous, being authentic, and I thought, let me look at those words. Actually, that's what I want to be in every environment, not just as a coach or as a trainer or as a consultant. Therefore, if that's who I am, then I can be free, because that's not just tied to doing the coaching or doing the profession. Am I making sense?
Right. Right. I tried making a being list. I have tried to make them. I'm in awe of people who make them work. Like, I feel like there's magic in that. But yeah, it's amazing. That's rad.
What stood out to you, John, in what I just shared there?
The idea that the idea of being able to create and maintain a being list. I feel like that's I feel like it feels like it has to be like a lot of trust in the process. Like you trust yourself in a deep way. That's cool.
Yeah. And for me, self-trust is connected to that self-worth. And it's actually being able to love myself through the dark side as well as the light, because I want to be calm. I'm not always calm. I'm not always patient. And there are times when I'm judgy. So how can I love that part of me and have grace whilst wanting to be in a place of being different?
Right. That's cool.
So John, we've got a couple of minutes left. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go for it. Go for it.
What words of wisdom do you have to close off today?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, anytime, you're trying to, like, going back to like the first one, the truest, highest expression. I feel like anytime you're trying to do something that you've never done before, you have to give yourself grace in being able, like, having an opportunity for failure, but also having pretty strong structures and systems to get yourself back to, back to the work. And this idea of having an inquiry or having a structure to really ask yourself, like, what is your truest, highest expression? What is the part of you, like, what part of you right now wants to express and be heard? And, like, what is that? And how can that expression lift you up and others around you up? I feel like is a tremendous tool. The thing that, for me, the two common answers when I ask that question are gratitude and to live excellently. This idea of doing the right thing, even if no one's really watching, or, okay, yeah, like, this is, we have to do this thing, like, okay, like, it's going to cost us time, energy, and money, but it is the right thing to do, so let's do it. That's not always easy at the initial decision point, but it provides ease later on, and that later ease is so valuable, and it becomes an upward feeding cycle. That's been my experience of answering that question again and again for myself. And then gratitude. It always seems like gratitude is the answer for 80% of what we're dealing with. There was I forget what it was, a fable. I forget which culture it came from, but there was a king who was looking for a piece of advice, like, even when things were good or when things were bad. And the piece of advice centered around, like, still, like, just be grateful or something like that, or things will change, be grateful for in the moment. I could be getting it completely wrong.
It sounds good.
Sounds nice.
Yes. And on that note, I am very grateful for this opportunity to just share this time with you, John, and everyone else that's listening. There is a real sense of calm here today, and I hope the audience is feeling it too. So if anyone's ever been afraid of doing a podcast or speaking their truth, I think with truth comes calm and peace of mind as well. I'm feeling it today.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. It's so much fun. This is a beautiful structure. I appreciate everyone who's tuning in and listening as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the questions.
We'll see you all next week. And I think we might have a look at some tools next week. So if you've got any questions around tools, coaching tools, send them across to us.
Sweet.